Hello and welcome. Before I go into the topic at hand, I want to point out that this is not a guide, strictly speaking. I know I posted this alongside my League of Legends beginner guides, and that is probably from where you came, but this is less of a guide and more of a personal ramble about League of Legends and to a big extent also esports in general. The reason I added it to the list is that some thoughts might be useful in some ways, so instead of making it a completely separate thing, I kept it in. There I go again. I ramble even before I start rambling for real. Anyway, the competitive mindset. League of Legends is a team-based competitive multiplayer game. This sounds like I'm simply stating a fact I could have read off of any gaming website out there, but let's analyze this term for a minute. Team-based. You are playing as a group of people that try to achieve the same goal, which is to win the game. Competitive. You are playing against another team of players that have the same goal as you, to win. And only one of the two teams can achieve this goal. That is where the competition comes from. Online. Well, duh. You can only play League of Legends on the internet. But this also implies that there is probably some kind of matchmaking system in place that puts complete strangers together in teams to fight against another team that doesn't know each other. Once again, stating things you already know, but this is important for later, believe me. Multiplayer. You are playing with and against other players. It is not a single player game. Your actions have an impact on other people within the boundaries of the game. Game. It is a system based on rules established by the creators of the game. Its main function is to entertain the players. So, what the hell am I getting at? The point I'm trying to make is that the success and enjoyment you will get out of League of Legends is not only based on your skill and performance, but also by how you interact with your teammates. Let's put this into an example. You play as a jungler and see your top laner engages in a situation that he cannot win while you are nowhere nearby. In the end, he dies and gives the enemy team first blood. You feel the need to do something to fix the problem, and since you cannot stay in top lane all the time, you go with verbal input. Now, this can be done in different ways. A majority of people lack the necessary tact in these kinds of situations and write something like, "You stupid noob, go AFK!" What does this do for your team? Well, to be frank, it fucks up your team's mental state. Such statements hit people very hard because not only are they getting insulted, but since an obvious error on their part led to that, they tend to accept the rising guilt within themselves. This will most likely lead to a performance drop on their end. But we aren't done here. Other teammates will probably either side with the flaming jungler or the insulted top laner. In a lot of cases they will all write something as well. If worse comes to worse, the conversation goes over a long period of time. But aren't we forgetting something? Oh shit, we are playing a highly skill-based competitive multiplayer game. We don't have time to write all of this crap. Because of this, mistakes are made. Enemy champions leaving the lanes become overlooked and more people die on your team. Good. Granted, this view is a bit extreme, but it did happen to me not only once. It is rare, but it does happen. But let's look at the alternative for a second. You are still the same jungler, same situation, but this time you go ahead and say something like this. Yo mate, shit happens, try to stay back a bit more, I'll come around as soon as I can and fix your lane. Might be a bit of a long sentence, but not only will the top laner feel more at ease again because he sees a way to come back in his lane, but also the rest of the team sees that their jungler is reliable and helps out where help is needed. This is not to say that either of these things will happen all the time, but more often than not, the tone in which you talk to people in-game has a positive or negative impact on the match itself. In the end, you will win a higher percentage of your games when you interact in a friendly way with your teammates. This percentage is not huge, but you will want every small advantage you can get. Which brings us to the core message of this video. The competitive mindset is doing anything, no matter how unimportant it is, in the grand scheme of things. But if it helps you to win, do it. This also applies to things outside of matches. For example, you want to improve on last hitting minions to improve your rating. Don't just blindly go on the ladder and play one game after the other. Why not open a custom game for once, where only you join and all you do is train last hitting, so improve specially on that one aspect for future games. Alternatively, you can add bots or play against a friend and ask him to play an harass-oriented style that should prevent you from getting last hits. This way you will have to avoid his attacks and still get the last hits. If you train under such conditions, you are bound to improve. With all that said, of course you should spend a lot of time on actual matches if you want to improve in the whole scheme of things. But take the time to improve on specific, isolated aspects from time to time. Speaking of improving outside of the game, League of Legends is a very in-depth MOBA, and you can never discount the effect that knowledge has on your in-game performance. The classic example of that is knowing what the enemy champions are capable of doing. I know this is not an easy task, memorizing the abilities of all champions out there. At the time of recording this video, there are 105 champions available. This means that there are currently 105 passives and 420 active champion abilities floating around. A crazy number of spells to keep track of. And not only that, but also thinking about what different ways they can be used and how they interact with what your champion can do, and in short, the amount of possible knowledge in that area is huge. But nobody ever said anything about having to sit down and study all of that before you can start playing. This would be no fun, and you would probably not want to continue. I acquired this knowledge one step at a time. Before I started playing, I had a quick look at a few cheap champions to get a grip of the kinds of abilities that are common. Then I jumped into the game and did kinda well against those champions I had a look at and got demolished by those that I had no idea of. Then I always took the time after a match to look at the champions I fought and had trouble with to find out what was going on. It might have been a big load of information, but acquiring it step by step while playing and in between matches in small sized chunks made it a fun learning experience. But there are also other things to learn, whether it be item builds, good team compositions, or correct ward placement. What I'm trying to get at is that you can never acquire enough knowledge. Every bit of new information can help you turn the tide of battle in your favor. That attitude led me to making my series of beginner guides. But knowledge alone does not bring victory. You will need to balance learning this stuff with actual in-game experience. Well, that's me about done with my little rant. Let me just say once more the important points I want you to remember. First, don't be a dick towards your teammates as well as your opponents. Second, do everything in your power to win the match for your team. And third, always try to improve. You can always do better. That's it for now. If you want to watch one of my League of Legends guides, click on the handy little annotation in the top right hand corner. There you will find everything you need if you're a new player, and even if you are a veteran, maybe you find something you want to catch up on. Anyway, thanks for listening.